Prelims 2019 paper 1, so that just I want to give an insight of how to solve the questions, what kind of questions are coming and all that stuff. Prelims paper set D I am taking, set D. So if you have the prelims paper, it will be more convenient for you to understand the class. So prelims paper 1 set D, guys, D, right? So we'll start with the first question. So in the set D, the first question was about Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, right? So international institutions and organizations is a part of prelim syllabus, right? So this comes under that. So similarly, there are many other banks also. Those also we have to be ready with. NDB is one potential area where they can ask a question, right? The BRICS Bank, right? The BRICS Bank is one area where they can ask, right? So different organizations, World Bank, IMF, right? Asian Development Bank is there. This Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank is there. NDB is there, right? Different banks are there. Just find out, as we have discussed before itself, any international organization, find out what is the, where is the headquarter, what is its mandate, who are the member countries, right? These we have to know. So this Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, even if we go through the editorials of 2018 and 19 Hindu paper, we can easily say India is not the largest shareholder, right? It is China's bank. Broadly saying, it is China's bank. So we can eliminate option 2 in the options, right? And also Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, there were many articles in the newspaper saying that this bank is trying to spread its wings, by including members from other regions also, by including countries from other regions also, right? Even if we follow that newspaper article, then also we can eliminate the option 3, which says AIB does not have any members from outside Asia, which is wrong, right? So simply, if we follow newspaper perfectly every day, we can easily solve this question, right? So this is, in this way, the first question has to be solved. Now if we go to the second question, it's about inter-creditor agreement. If you see the question, it is, what was the purpose of inter-creditor agreement signed by Indian banks and financial institutions recently? So this was the current affairs question. So that year inter-creditor agreement took place. So who is a creditor? So creditor is someone who gives credit to the people. Debtor, DEBTOR, is someone who takes a loan from the banks. So all the banks made an agreement. What was that? They have made an agreement saying all those non-performing assets or stressed assets which are there. So a kind of stressed asset, many banks will be giving loans to an asset. Take an NBFC, many banks will be giving loan to a NBFC, or many banks will be giving loan to a company. Not single bank will be giving. So what happens in that case? Problem arises. What is that problem? Consensus. All the banks have to agree to a same plan. Otherwise, what will happen? There will be delay. There will be delay in getting the benefit out of the asset, right? So that's why in this inter-creditor agreement, an agreement was made between all the banks, between all the creditors. That means all those who gave loans to a particular company, all those will come to agreement, right? So simply, broadly, if we know this also, we can answer this question, right? If you see the options, there is only one option which is somewhat related to what I have spoken just now. You see the other options, one of the option is, it says to act as an independent regulator. The other one says to support infrastructure projects. The other one says to lessen government of India's budget deficit. These are all not related, right? So broadly also, if we know about a topic, we can answer the questions, right? This should be the approach. And the third question was very interesting. The third question is, chairman of public sector banks is selected by. You see the question, it is chairman of public sector banks is selected by. Here many of the students have done the mistake, because the question says selected by, not appointed by, right? The chairman of the public sector banks is selected by. It did not say appointed by. If it was appointed by, then it could have been Union Ministry of Finance, but it said selected by. So Banks Board Bureau is the body which selects the chairman of the public sector banks, right? So this Bank Board Bureau, we might wonder how come this has been asked in the prelims. This was in the news because of scams in the banks. We had a number of scams in the year 2018. There was Punjab National Bank scam, right? So bank scams were increasing. Corporate governance issues were there, because of which Banks Boards Bureau was in the news. Because corporate governance issues, where do they happen? They happen at the top level management of the banks, right? Even the Punjab National Bank also, it happened at the top level management. So chairperson level, some issues are there. So that's why Banks Board Bureau was in the news, and that's why this question came, right? So in this way, almost all the topics we can relate to current affairs and the static portions, right? The next question is about PNGRB. So this was almost a factual question, guys. Just go through it, right? This was a factual question. And the next question is also about LTE and VoLTE, SNT question. This is science and technology question, the fifth question, right? So that is also completely factual, nothing there to analyze it, right? So just go through what is LTE and what is VoLTE, then you can answer that question. And the sixth question, so we have discussed many acts, right? As a part of crash course, we have discussed many acts and legislations. Now those are important because if we see this question, it's directly about Maternity Benefits Act, right? It's directly about Maternity Benefits Act Amendment 2017. So similarly, number of acts have been amended in the recent times also. We have covered them. NHRC amendment, right? RTI amendment, NIA, National Investigation Agency Act amendment, right? All these amendments we have covered. So acts are also very important, right? So seeing this question, so from legislations, any recent amendments, that is also important for us. I have tried to cover most of the legislations we'll be covering in the near future also, right? So the next question is about ease of doing business. So that year, that particular year, rank of India has improved like anything in ease of doing business, right? It came to 77 in 2018 and it came to 63 in 2019. So that's why, so we were remembering who publishes this ease of doing business. It is World Bank, right? So in that dimension, we have studied. But the question asked about what are the parameters, right? What are the parameters based on which ease of doing business index is calculated? So it says which of the following is not a part of World Bank's ease of doing business. So we need to know all those 10 indicators or 10 parameters based on which score is calculated for ease of doing business, right? So in this detail, we need to understand. That's why all the indexes which we have covered in crash course, I was telling the subcomponents also based on what parameters. So even if we have a broad idea, what are the different parameters, we can try to answer this question, right? If we see this seventh question, ease of doing business, registering properties, dealing with construction permits, C and D. C and D options, these two parameters were in the news. They were in the papers because these two areas India is lacking. So there were many articles in the newspaper saying India has to improve in registering property and dealing with construction permits. So even if we go through those articles, then directly we will be knowing that registering property and construction permits are definitely part of ease of doing business, right? So in that way we can eliminate C and D. So we will be left with A and B, and accordingly we have to take the choice, right? So again I am saying there is no one way to solve the questions, and most of the questions we won't be knowing the direct answer. So we have to go to the answer with the entire knowledge we have, right? That should be the approach. So the next question, this was very interesting. This was covered also. We have covered it in crash course. This is about extended producer responsibility. Eighth question in prelims set D is extended producer responsibility. It says extended producer responsibility was introduced as an important feature in which of the following? Now this was also a misleading question. Many thought this was part of plastic management rules, right? Many have kept plastic management rules, but for plastic management rules, extended producer responsibility in the draft stage. For e-waste management rules, EPR is already applicable, right? So the answer is C, extended producer responsibility. What was that? We have discussed it before. A company not only manufacturing a product, but also ensuring that waste generated from that product is also collected by the company and processed, right? That is extended producer responsibility. That means we are extending the responsibility of the producer from mere producing to collecting the waste and processing the waste also, right? So this is not yet a part of plastic waste management rules. This is already a part of e-waste management rules. So the answer for this question is e-waste management rules. Even till now also, for plastics, still a draft stage only, this EPR. Right? So this is about 8th question. And 9th question is about Food Corporation of India. 9th question was about Food Corporation of India. What does it say? It asks about all the components of economic cost in Food Corporation of India. All the components of economic cost. We have already covered this as a part of food grain management. In one of the lectures, we have covered this as a part of food grain management, right? So what does Food Corporation of India do? To simply say, it buys food grains from the farmers, stores them and sells them to the states. It distributes to the states, and the states will distribute to the people through ration shops. Simply saying, this is how food grain management takes place. So the role of Food Corporation of India is to buy the food grains from the farmers and give and distribute them to the states, right? So economic cost means what is the entire cost that is being borne by FCI, Food Corporation of India, right? If we see the options, it says the economic cost of food grains to FCI is MSP plus, and 4 options are given, right? So MSP is the price at which FCI buys the food grains from the farmers, right? This I hope everyone is clear with, right? So at MSP, FCI buys the food grains from the farmer. So not only that, but distribution cost also will be there, right? FCI has to distribute these food grains to the state governments. So distribution cost will be there, transportation cost will be there, right? So if we see the options, first option says transportation cost only. That is wrong, right? Distribution cost also will be there. We see the second option, it says interest cost only. That is also wrong. We know that distribution cost is there. If we see the third option, procurement incidentals and distribution cost, right? So that is the option. That is the option. So if we know how FCI works, we can answer this question, right? Even if we don't know all the components of economic cost of FCI, even if we know how FCI works, we can identify the components of economic cost, right? So through this question, that's what I want to tell you. The next question is straight away question, what is social capital? And 4 options were given. So if we just see the options, then itself is clear the definition of social capital, right? It is the level of mutual trust and harmony in the society, right? The level of mutual trust and harmony in the society. Now this was asked because there were many articles which were saying because of lack of social trust and mutual trust, economy is not growing. And also social capital is one major component for development of an individual. This might have been covered for you in Indian society also, right? Social capital, when caste system topic is being discussed for you, I suppose social capital was also covered for you, right? Social capital is very much required. Now self-help groups are there. Women self-help groups. Why are they so important for women development? Because women get social capital. When they form self-help group, they get the collective power, right? They get the social capital, which will lead to women development, right? So that's why social capital was asked. So it was in the news. And the 11th question, this was very interesting. They asked about an old scheme which is related to financial inclusion. Presently we have Pradhana Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, right? Presently we have Pradhana Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Everyone knows this Pradhana Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. It is for financial inclusion, right? However, they have asked about lead bank scheme. They have asked about lead bank scheme. This is a scheme which is very much older to Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. So rather than asking the scheme which is in the news, they have asked about a scheme which is an older version of the present scheme. Right? How did they ask? Service area approach was implemented under the purview of. Service area approach is implemented under the purview of National Skill Development Mission, Integrated Rural Development Program, Lead Bank Scheme and Manrega. So the answer is Lead Bank Scheme. Now this was a difficult question. So this says not only the present schemes, but we need to have a broad idea about the previous schemes also, if not the specific details of the schemes, right? So this question was in fact shocking for the people because Lead Bank Scheme is an old scheme. Jan Dhan Yojana is the present scheme, right? So if we go to the next question, it is about minerals. Now this question was asked because there was an amendment. There was an amendment to Minerals Act. There was an amendment to Minerals Act that was in negotiations during that period, right? That's why, because that amendment is being thought for the Minerals Act, this question was asked. So to solve this question, we can easily solve this question by seeing options 2 and 3, right? Not always with the knowledge we have, we can solve the question. Sometimes we have to use the logic also. So just see the second option and the third option. Second option says, state government does not have powers regarding formation of rules for minor minerals, right? Second option broadly says, state government does not have the power to form rules about minor minerals. But if we see the third option, it says state governments have the power to frame rules to prevent illegal mining of minor minerals. Now one option is saying that state governments don't have the power. Second, other option is saying that state governments have the power. So these two options cannot be together. These two options cannot be together. So with that logic, we can eliminate option B and option D. Straight away we can eliminate option B and option D. We will be left with only two options. 1 and 3 only and 3 only. Right? Accordingly, we have to, if you know somewhat about minerals, then you can easily solve this question. Right? So this is how we have to try to analyze the options also. Right? Ultimately, what we want is the answer for this question.